So in this video, I'm going to show you the UI layout for a grocery list application. We're actually using Bootstrap, which allows us to make dynamic websites or responsive websites that will adjust depending on the screen size. So if you want to follow along via code and not use the source files that are included with these tutorial videos, you can go ahead and download Bootstrap here from getbootstrap.com. Click on this download Bootstrap, then finally this download Bootstrap, and it will give you a zip file that looks just like this. You're going to extract the CSS, fonts, and JS folder into the root folder of your application. From there, you're going to download jQuery, and you're going to do that. You're just going to click on this download jQuery, and then this download the compressed, and you should have this jQuery file that you're going to also drag in. When all is said and done, you're going to go to the bottom of your index file, right above your body, and it should look exactly like this. You should have your jQuery, Bootstrap, Angular, and app.js files. Great. So now let's look into our two layout files that we have mocked up for our application. So I'm going to go and open the first one, which is just lists our grocery list items. So every item has a button to the right and a button to the left of it. The button to the left, well, if we click it, it will strike through our grocery list item or unstrike through it. To the right, it will edit our grocery list item. Great. So now let's go into our form for adding grocery list items. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to open this up, and this is our second view for our grocery list application. It has an add item below, it has an input box, and then essentially we can click the save to add an item to our list or a cancel to go back. So now let's go into our actual components of Bootstrap just so we can get a general feel for what each thing does. The first component we have is going to be this Nav Component, which essentially just adds a nav bar to our application. It's what shows this thing right here. So this black portion. So you'll notice I just kind of copied this, word for word, or this code. The only thing I altered is I didn't put in a source file. I actually just used the supplied glyphicons from Bootstrap right here. Great. So now let's move on to our second component, which is our container. This actually just makes a floating container in our application, which, as you can see, it just kind of floats right in the middle. Let me go to index. So it just floats right in the middle. That's what our container does. It creates a container for us, and then this column XS12 just shows essentially how big we want that container to be. So, which I've also here's the documentation for that a little bit. Now, we actually have a list group. A list group allows us to contain the multiple list items and make it look fancy, let's say. So if I were to show you that, it adds like this border, it rounds it at the top, and I, once again, copy that pretty much component right from here. It's a list group item at the top, as you can see here. Then we have list group items, as I've done here. And within these list group items, I now have a button, a text item, and another button. And I pulled them to the left or the right using this class, pull left, pull right. So these buttons can also be colored in any way you want them. So if you look at this documentation, it says, if we want to make it green, like the success, we use button success, which you notice I've done here, button success. If I wanted it default, I would just use button default, which I've done here for our edit. Great, so now we kind of have an overarching idea of these UL and LI items. All I've really done is I've, copied this and then pasted it for every individual item. They're all hard-coded at this moment. One last thing I've done is I've added icons to these components or these buttons using these supplied glyphicons from Bootstrap. So these glyphicon unchecked, it's just telling which one I want to actually use. You'll notice I use the pencil right here. That's defined right here and here. Great. So that's essentially what each one of our, item does or components does in our grocery list item or our main page. So in our form to add grocery lists, we have essentially the exact same thing. The only thing that we've changed up is we have a form, which has an input box, which is, right here. That's for our grocery list input, what we actually want to, input for the item. Then we have a save button or a cancel button. And we have a Jumbotron text, which just says add item below. So that's a basic layout of our grocery list application. I hope that makes sense, and I'll see you in the next video.